So Scott, thanks for stopping by to talk about entrepreneurialism.
I am here for the gimlets. Where are they?
All right, so here we go. Tell me, you're the founder of Valley Venture Mentors.
One of the three co-founders,
yeah,
actually,
and
not to take full credit away from the others.
So it was Paul
and Steve.
And Steve, right. And
Right.
so how would you describe where entrepreneurialism is in the Pioneer Valley, Western Mass today? What's happened since you founded that?
It's exploded. I mean, it's absolutely exploded. It's
a good news
now.
thing, then.
It's a good news thing. Colleges have got different programs that didn't exist before. E for All is here. There's a couple different funds that exist here that didn't exist before. It's absolutely exploded in terms of being in the mindset of those involved in economic development. They're saying about entrepreneurship. They're talking about startups. I mean, all of that changed from when we started VVM.
Sure.
Entrepreneurship was a thing that other people did in other regions. And now it's a thing that happens here.
And so how is it supported here? Like, what kind of, you mentioned E for All, like, just tell me a little bit about, that and, maybe Valley Venture Mentors, like what's the ecosystem look like?
Ecosystem is broad and diverse now.
Okay.
Which is the great thing.
Mm-hmm.
The bad thing is that it's broad and diverse.
Okay.
So as we started, there were just a couple of programs that were inviting people in. So you had everybody there. You had politicians, you had startups, you had attorneys, you had bankers, you had everybody kind of in one room. And then you had a lot of connections being made, a lot of progress being made then. Now there are so many different places to go up and down the valley, out into the Berkshires, that you can't possibly be involved in all of them.
Right.
You're lucky if it can be involved in.
Is anyone really capturing that across the board?
I haven't seen it, but I don't think that that's a bad thing. Just like in Boston, nobody would try to capture the whole ecosystem in Boston because there's so much going on.
Right.
So I view it as a positive growth thing. And now there's a lot of different channels for entrepreneurs to access, mentors to access, to get into that ecosystem.
Okay.
So I think it's a net positive.
Good thing. Yeah, that's great. So looking, from that kind of high view that you have, what excites you about what's going on in entrepreneurship today? What are there startups? Are there entrepreneurs that you're following, you're working with anymore?
I'm working with a number of entrepreneurs, and still get referred in. I still get to work with them. I think to me the three most exciting things that I'm looking at are an individual, Gregory Thomas, who came into the Valley a few years. It was always been in the Valley, had been part of the UMass Alumni Association, but took on the role of the executive director at the Berthium Entrepreneurship Center, I think is the full name, up at UMass. And when he showed up, a lot of people didn't think he was going to be the guy and be successful at it. And I would say that to Greg, and he proved them all wrong. And he's integral to entrepreneurship in the Valley now. I mean, he's involved in stuff in the Berkshires. He's involved with VVM. He's certainly heavily involved at UMass. So he's really taken ownership of this, not quite leadership role, but like being a good example, catalyst, and being involved and being a catalyst. So I think Gregory Thomas has been a phenomenal force in the area, and he's still, he's just getting started. I think what's happening in the Berkshires is really interesting.
Okay.
The Lever Fund, Lever organization, which has kind of a fund attached to it of some angels, they're doing what VVM was trying to do before.
Funding?
They're providing funding. They've got competitions. They've got state money involved. Like it feels to me like they've struck the right balance between the private sector being involved and the public sector being involved.
Nice.
And it's working in the Berkshires, which is again a space. A big space with not a lot of people. It's hard to get concentrations in areas like that. So I think they're doing some tremendous stuff. And there's a Berkshire Entrepreneurship or Innovation Center also that they're a part of. And the last thing I think is, to do a plug for a client, the Alchemy Fund.
Okay.
Which has changed the perception of people investing in startups.
Really?
Because they're having folks invest in their fund that haven't invested in startups before. They're coaching them through, this is what it means, this is what we're investing in. They're all high risk.
Accredited investors or small?
Accredited investors.
Okay.
But even accredited investors, which are rich people, don't normally invest in startups. Because they don't know how to, or they've invested one time and they lost their money.
Risk adverse too? Or?
And reasonably risk adverse. Yeah. And it's not something you should put your 401k into by any means. But the Alchemy Fund has taken the time to educate the people with money about what this investment looks like, what the return cycle is going to be, what the risks are, so they go into it eyes wide open. And then they're putting together a pretty good track record right now. So they're doing it smartly and they're doing it well. So I think those are the three things that I look at that are exciting in the current ecosystem.
Okay, next one's gonna be a tough question, but it had to be thrown at you before. 3 pieces of advice you give to someone who wants to become an entrepreneur or is an entrepreneur.
So the first one is, and actually I had to give this to my son just a couple weeks ago because he's working on an entrepreneurship idea.
Cool.
That we've been bandying back and forth, and I said, tell everybody you meet about it. Talk about it. Like, just describe it to people. Like,
That's
if there's an opportunity, just start talking about
Who would've
what you're
thought?
working on, you know? But so many people, when they come up with an idea, like, why am I going to tell anybody? Or you have to sign an NDA before I tell you. Like, no.
Oh, that's super.
So,
yeah.
because everyone has a fear that somebody's going to copy their idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could happen. Not very likely. Everybody else has got their own things going on.
Right.
And what they don't have, if you're just describing them the gist of what you're talking about, they don't have all the time you've spent thinking about it. They don't have all the things you've already thought are bad ideas there. You're way ahead of them, even if you don't think you are.
Neat.
So talk about it, because you don't know who you're going to meet and what connections are going to come out. The obvious corollary to that is listen. Listen to what people are saying back to you.
Feedback,
The feedback that's coming. And don't necessarily agree with all of it. You don't have to follow all of it.
Right, the naysayers or whatever.
They're out there, but listen to it. If you
don't
start
overweight
to hear
the naysayers too.
Don't overweight the naysayers, exactly right. But if you happen to catch the ear of somebody who's done something like this before, and they say, "Boy, I wish I hadn't done these 3 things," or write those down.
Yeah.
You know,
cool.
That's invaluable advice.
Yeah.
And obviously, the shameless plug: you got to have a good lawyer. Do I know any?
Lower third, your phone number under?
You could. That'd be great.
Your cell.
Yeah.
Call me anytime.
No, but I say that kind of jokingly, but kind of not.
Good advice, good legal, good someone in your corner.
You want a little bit of good advice up front, so you don't head down alleyways.
Right.
That
Are you,
lead to things.
literally, are lawyers receptive to kind of hearing you out before the money starts rolling?
No.
The money you have to have something in your pocket.
The quick answer is no. Most lawyers aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, some are, and entrepreneurial lawyers are, and that's a good way of knowing.
So be prepared to pay, but also it's going to be worth it if you pick the right one.
It's going to be worth it, but I think be prepared to pay, but not on day one. Like, a true entrepreneurial lawyer is going to listen to you for a while to see, frankly, if they want to waste their time with you.
Right.
Because most of these ventures are going to fail.
Right.
Most aren't going to get enough money to be able to pay you what you could charge other clients. So there is a little bit of sacrifice that's involved. So I have to want to like you. I have to want to like your idea, and I have to think you got a good head on your shoulders. And
and as you've done, I've seen you do it. You can be a linchpin or a linkage to a bunch of other resources as well.
You should be. I mean, lawyers
at triage.
Yeah.
Same thing. So
they should be.
Totally off the script, but really important. You didn't get it?
I missed the script entirely.
I refer to these things. They're called Ginny Things.
Yes.
And so I just want to hear what's the most important. And they're delicious when you've made them.
There's only 3 ingredients.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Right. So there's gin, which it should be a good gin.
It should be a good gin.
But it should be good gin. I mean, and so it's not like Gordon's level. It should be
There's
good
some
gin.
sugary thing coming up.
Yeah. So there's freshly squeezed lime juice. You can't have anything other than freshly squeezed lime. It has to be.
Yeah, gotta be.
And it's basically 1 part gin, 1 part freshly squeezed lime.
Okay.
And then the simple syrup.
That's
so you have to make the simple syrup at home.
You have to make it?
You have to make it. You can't buy it. Well, also, you're literally taking sugar and water and heating them up. I mean, if you have to go buy that...
Some people, that's a problem.
Then they shouldn't be drinking these. I mean, that's
they find someone who will make
that's
it for
a barrier
them.
to entry for them, right? Or find somebody who can make it for them. But then the secret trick are making simple syrup is not just the sugar and water coming together, but you take the lime beforehand, before you squeeze it, and you zest the lime into the simple syrup as it's being formed. So then the simple syrup is infused with the lime flavor.
Yeah.
So you're getting like a double lime aspect inside the drink.
This is amazing.
That's the secret.
All right. Well, we're going to come back to that after you've made a couple in the GCAI kitchen.
I can't wait.
And then we'll retape this whole segment.
I think it'll be much better.
Thank you.
Thank you.